This is me swimming into 2025.
I'm doggy paddling.
Oh, hey, dreamer.
Oh, hey, dreamer. What's shaking?
I'm shaking, Megan. I gotta make myself a little brighter. Brighter, brighten, brighten, brighter, brighten, brighten, woo! So, that reel.
When
Chop it up.
my favorite part, and there's so many,
Uh-huh.
is
Uh-huh.
is like the ice balls. Ice balls.
Ice balls.
Ice balls. Ice balls.
I was like, I'm dead.
I'm dead.
It's just
I have to tell you, I mean, obviously when I'm
Feel it up in here.
editing, I'm listening to it like over and over and watching it, and it does not get tiring.
No.
I will lower the volume out of respect for other people in the house
why? Because you are the
because all they're hearing is ice balls, ice balls, ice balls.
Oh,
More of that, please.
yeah. Look, it was
Look,
brilliant. Woo!
I am the dream. I am the dream.
I'm the dream.
I woke up this morning and I was like, I have a reel in my heart, and she shall be born before I sit with Sage.
Like it was pure magic. It was a surprise. I was like, oh, what has she done now?
Yeah.
I can't show me.
I like surprising you. I
I
do.
love it.
I
It's
love
my
it.
favorite. And then I just look at it and then I'm like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna watch it over and over and laugh and laugh and laugh.
Did you read the caption?
No, no, I was so caught up. I was so caught up.
No. 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 Go read the
No,
caption.
no.
Let's watch it again together. Hold on. So we can get in the mood. As if we aren't in the mood already.
Where we at? Where we at? Let's see. Let's see this magic. Mm, mm, mm.
chop it up.
Yes, unhinged. AF.
And no, we're not done with the ice balls yet. If anybody thinks the ice balls are done. By the way, the person I was speaking with today, I'll edit this part out of our video.
Of us daydreaming over our reels. Because they're
Uh
good.
what?
I said us like doing this with our reels because they're goddamn good.
I'm like, is Era of the Dreamers gonna be solely like reel based? It's possible.
It could be whatever we want.
It could be whatever. Like this is like the fabric. We got 40 minutes of fabric and then we chop it up.
Yeah.
We
No,
crack it open.
I think we're delivering. I think it's so beautiful. It's
It
like,
really is. It makes me like are kind of teary
no, it's
in the
absolutely
fields.
gives me all of the feels. And it's
Hmm.
like, I don't want to compare how I'm feeling now because it's two totally different things, but it's reminding me a bit of 2020 when the world first started shutting down. And it reminds me of like how so many people felt lost, felt like, wait, what is my shift and pivot? Like, how do I show up during these times? I know it was a massive time for you and your family. And
Hmm.
I'm, and I just remember like I started getting up because I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. And I just started waking up early after my kids got on the bus, making my coffee, going out on the balcony I had in my home when I lived on the water up in Olympia. And I just started doing Facebook Lives just on my personal Facebook and just being like, yo, good morning. What are y'all doing? What's going on? How are you?
Mm.
And then I ended up talking about everything under the sun. Everything you can imagine ended up in these conversations. Like I'm having conversations with people in the comments. And I remember people like messaging me and going, "What time is Coffee with Sage?" Like it became a name, like Coffee with Sage. And I was just like, "Wow." And I did it for a long time. So fast forward to this moment, it's totally different thing,
Hmm.
totally different vibe, but there still seems to be an essence of a lot of humans that I know, humans out in the world that I don't know, having that. So wait, what's my shift and pivot? What's my foot like? there's this need for just this, hey, we're here. What's up? You want some real talk? You want to laugh a little bit? It's okay. You can still be joyful. You
Yes.
know, like,
Joyful and soulful. I was like, we need to, those two words, joyful.
yeah,
That's what we
joyful.
are. I was
Yeah,
like, we're joyful and we're soulful. We're joyful.
I'm in for that. Yeah. And so I'm getting that kind of like, there's this, there's this piece of like, I'm here for it. I was here for it before, but I'm here for this. This is totally different though. I just want to
Mhm.
say, doing this with you is like, it's like nothing I could have even prepared for. And that's why we didn't prepare for it, because we didn't know it was happening. Like
Yeah.
it was just this thing that just like birthed. And then I'm like, of course, this is what we're supposed to be doing,
Oh
right?
my God. The
Like
joy I have felt all morning knowing that this is happening.
it's just like, oh, there's other things.
Which ones?
I do other things. This is completely, not only is it taken on a life of its own, but it's seemed to be this like morphing into and touching. We've talked about this before, like touching all the other parts as we
Yeah.
know it of our
Yeah.
lives. And it's wild
We keep getting proof of concept. The
for sure.
concept that didn't even have a concept, that still doesn't have a concept, but we keep getting proof of concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. Like this commitment to show up for this thing that we don't have this vision for necessarily. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think like, has that ever happened before in my life where I was like all in, full body, yes, both feet in, fully committed?
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think so.
No, not like this. No,
Not like
no.
this.
Me neither.
Yeah,
No. Mm-mm.
it's something special. And I think we
Hmm.
both know that, right? There's something
Hmm.
special here. There's a need for it, a need for each of us have this piece of,
Yeah.
and then we also see where other people's pieces could all
Yeah. It's like we
connect
need it and
in.
we need it. And,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
oh,
So
goosebumpies.
the goosebumpies.
Okay. Wait, hold on.
Oh, we're drinking. Hold on. Oh man.
Okay. So
Okay.
this is the part I have to tell you that I'm gonna cut a couple things. She was asking me how I make the ice balls because, quote, I cannot get ice balls out of my head. And I was like, that was the whole point. You're welcome.
The gift.
And get it's a gift. Yeah, like you say in the reel I just did, like, you're welcome. After the dancing.
Oh, go.
Welcome.
Oh,
And she shared with me, she's doing the bingo card, showed it to me.
fantastic.
Love it.
Good. Good.
And she shared with me something about oh, you're gonna die. Get ready for this.
Okay.
Workshop. We did the pages into the future.
Mhm.
She wrote this, you are a spark of something really beautiful, like bright, all these like it
Mhm.
landed on today on her birthday.
No.
Yes. I said, please send me a picture of that. She was like, can you believe that when we did like the messages in the future, this landed on my birthday?
Yes, I believe it.
Yes, of course I believe. I was
No,
like,
yes, like of course. We're
and
stunned.
today she had woken up all like, and she immediately got out of it and we zoomed up and out because she's an epic human being. Go be your epic self.
It's her birthday.
It's her birthday. And it was this huge ass message on the full page.
Blessed herself and didn't even know it.
She blessed herself and didn't even know it.
That's so beautiful. I'm so curious. Honestly, I don't even remember a lot of what I put for my future self, which is great because then it's going to be like double the surprise.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like what will be going on in that moment that I need to read that or whatever it is, you
Yeah.
know? Beautiful.
And if you're listening or watching this and you're curious, that workshop is still available.
Yeah, it is.
And so It's
Yeah.
an incredible 3-hour experience that you can really do anytime. And all of this that we're talking about was like generated at that time. And it's still packed with potent magic.
Yes.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter when you do it. We did it on January 11th, very specifically. But let me tell you, this whole year, anytime you do any of that we did in that workshop, it has no other chance but to blow up in your face in the best way.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
I'm not exaggerating.
No, like I get so like, okay, what am I doing in my journal next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if I've ever owned a journal that I've ever felt that way about. Like,
Yes.
oh, what's next? Or when I go to do a page, whatever that is, I'm like, oh, where's my journal? I've
Yep.
definitely become best friends with it.
Yep. Speaking of best friends, what's our topic for today? Speaking of best friends.
Like, duh. Well, I feel like there's a piece of the purge, the
Yeah. I
that
have some words.
okay, good. Yeah.
Declutter, belonging,
Mhm.
boundaries, identity. And then I have a hot take on how do we participate in a system that feels so broken?
Yeah, I'm here for that. I mean, everything sounds
But
super
like in the dreamer
good.
vibe. So
Yeah.
we gotta pick.
Okay.
Definitely the declutter purge,
Mhm. Yeah. I like this piece
which
about belonging. That came up for me yesterday, actually.
yeah. I think the declutter, so I put actually those together. Declutter plus belonging plus boundaries plus identity. Weaving that together because I feel like there's a lot there. Particularly when we enter the whole like midlife conversation.
Mhm.
Welcome all you beautiful midlifers.
We see you.
We see you. I'm going to go ahead and say that midlife is the period from what? When you turn 42, not even 40. It doesn't have a number.
Right.
What I do want to say is you've definitely gone through some stuff. You've
Mhm.
probably had your Uranus opposition,
Okay.
which is a big one and was it for another podcast. But the midlife crisis really correlated with the Uranus opposition. It's not a crisis, it's a cracking open. And on the other side, it's fucking awesome
Yeah.
because we're Sage and I are starting to really like taste that. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. So midlife, really until you die, is that the period we're capturing here?
That seems like a good.
It
Well,
seems like a pretty like
oh,
I've been like, what is midlife? It's
yeah.
I think we need to come up with a new like redefine that thing
A new measurement of sorts.
because it's not
Yeah.
midlife. It's almost like the
Mhm.
the second if there's two books in life, that's the second book. It makes sense because part of the Uranus opposition, the messaging of that this moment in time between like 41, 42, 43, 44, 45 depends on the person is
Mhm.
that you've like lived the first part of your life for others and
Mhm.
then this whole transformative thing that is usually very uncomfortable also heads up then you pass that like trial that grail and then you're living the life for you
Yeah, feeling that
and
hard.
so it's like that's so the
Mhm.
midlife is the moment when that sort of transition happens, but then you're like in it.
It's definitely a cracking open. I think that is one of my favorite ways to describe it. I don't even know if it's an awakening as much as it's a reawakening,
Yeah.
right? And I do feel for me, can only speak for me, I do feel there was some disruption that
Hmm.
began the process into
Yeah.
this midlifery.
Yeah.
For me, I can like think back and see like, oh, then that boom happened and then this happened. And
100%.
then though, this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
So I'm okay with it.
Yes. But only the wisdom of like really going through it has brought us to this space,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
right?
like I have a deeper, I don't even know if I'd be able to really understand what's happening in these moments. Not that I have a clear concept necessarily, but I'm feeling
Yeah.
it. I'm here for it. I acknowledge I know that like this is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing, who I'm supposed to be doing it with. And I don't think I would have that clarity had I not had those moments of like the disruption part. You're right. I've heard you say it before. It's a very much the beginning was very much the tower card, right?
Mhm.
It's the tower card. And even in many descriptions of the tower card, it says like it's an upheaval, but it's this necessary upheaval for this
Yeah.
next run.
Yeah. Yep. And so part of what Sage and I have been talking about, and this stemmed from the one-on-one conversation that she and I had not recorded, we were really going into like having an existential conversation around all of the things that we're moving through right now quite quickly.
Yeah.
Can you believe that it has not even been a month since we did that workshop on January 11th?
No.
How? No. So anybody out there that's feeling like time just has ceased to exist in its normal course, you're not alone.
Definitely not
It's a real thing. I'm going to go ahead and just say it's a fact.
happening.
It's happening. No, for real. So
Yeah.
we've had this like it's this accelerated space, and it's for Sage and I, it's been beautifully like joyous and also deep, and like so many layers of healing. And for some of us out there, it might feel a little extra like crunchy, and wherever you are on that sort of continuum, that's where you're meant to be, and just like feel into that and acknowledge it, because we've gone through this really accelerated pop, like pop of like a pop off.
Yeah.
And part of the conversation that we went into, chatting for a couple of hours, like really, really like soulful, deep, existential.
Great.
And we coached each other through it. And we sort of came up with this beautiful, very practical thing on the other side around decluttering and purging,
Mhm.
like our physical spaces, because we'd both been feeling that like it's coming, but the motivation, for whatever reason, it's hard to get into that like mojo. At least for me, it's hard to get into like the, all right, here we go. And so we wanted to chat about that today, and how it's potentially connected to identity,
Mhm.
which is connected to your sense of belonging. And then definitely the boundaries in there. I think boundaries can be like extended into a bigger conversation, but
Yeah.
what's in your heart after remembering all of that we did a few days ago?
I think the decluttering piece and the connection to the identity, it's like sometimes when I'm in it, in those feelings, I don't see it as clearly. But like right now in this moment, I'm like, when I am so attached and stuck on certain things, I am stuck on this way that I was, or this person that I was, how I showed up. And it's not even necessarily that I want to go back. I don't want to go back and be a different version of myself. Like, I really do love the version of who I am today, 46-year-old Sage. Like, I love it. I love her. That's clear. But there is this comparison that I think always lives for me in my brain of like, oh, well, 2020 Sage was 30 pounds lighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I do like, when I look at my closet and I look at like these clothes that I enjoyed wearing, and I go like, but is that who I am now? And do I want to walk into my closet and have this constant reminder of like, you used to be able to wear it? And the thing is like, it's not even it's not even about the body shift. I am just mentally not the person I was in 2020. Like, I am just not that same human.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm trying to remember this person that who was rad and did the best she could with what she knew and had,
Amen.
but like not her anymore. And so for me, I want my identity to be clear of who I am in this moment presently. And I can't do that. Like my space isn't a reflection of that. And so how do you stay in that like yummy high five energy of who you are when you've got all this reminders of like, well, you're not this one anymore. And this was what was great about her, whatever. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%
Okay, good.
sense. It's ringing all the like my it's ticking all the boxes.
Yeah.
Same, same. Going into my closet, and there's something interesting about this new sort of declutter and purge because it's not just sort of a more of a surface, like, oh, let me get rid of the things that no longer that are older, no longer fit.
Yeah.
It's like really everything you said about becoming clearer and seeing the reflection of the identity of who I am right now, like very much in the now. Like I'm literally like not even who I want to create space for this woman that I'm continuously becoming and exploring because I feel like we're both in this total exploratory space. So I want to make room for that and also just honor this the way I feel now. And I gotta give a shout out. We'll put the link in the video of this YouTube
Oh, yeah.
creator that I found. It's Clutterbug is I think the name of the channel. She's fantastic. And I got a couple of gems from her. She absolutely talks about the clutter that's attached to your identity, whether it's clothing, whether it's old art projects, whether it's, the books, anything that you've sort of attached your identity to. And that's why you're keeping that object. And it's a really beautiful fine line there because if you check in with each thing, you're like, oh, is this something that I'm holding on to because it reminds me of a version of myself because there's some part of me that wants to go back, but I don't want to go back. Just like you said, like I'm never, I am so happy with all of this going on and all of the like blah, the mess of it too. But I
Nonsense.
there's no, I guess, happy in the sense that neither of us are like yearning for the
Mhm.
time when.
No, thank you.
And I've certainly recently had those moments, whether it's,
Yeah.
it's going to keep happening probably, but it's not, it doesn't like hit me. It doesn't grip me. And so she talks about the identity thing. And then the other thing that really hit me, and we can so take this into that like juicy soul level, is that you should walk into your closet blindfolded and pick anything without knowing what it is, put it on, and leave the door of their house and feel fabulous in it. And I was like, say what? That's powerful.
Yeah.
That to me was like, dang. Because, and like I told you in our WhatsApp message, I was like, even if it's like a ratty pajama that I love,
Mhm.
but I'm okay with walking out of the house with it
Right.
because that's like me. It's not about portraying a certain thing to the outside world. It's about me feeling good in it and
Yeah.
feeling fabulous in it. And fabulous also includes quirky and comfortable and all those things. But there are certain items that I'm like,
Yeah.
huh. So that gave me a other layer, like a filter to
I'm
pass
laughing.
things through.
I'm envisioning doing that exercise now, the way my closet looks now. And what a hot fucking mess I would be.
This in one of her videos, she asks the woman, she's like, if your closet the way it is right now, would you trust your husband? I know this is stereotyping, but would you trust your husband to pick anything from the closet and match it up for you and you leave the door? And she
Yeah.
was like, again, stereotyping, some guys have great style, not knocking it. But that's another version of it. It's like,
Yeah,
would you
totally.
trust,
No.
anybody to go in and be like, oh, boop, 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 here. And then you're like, oh, wait.
Ooh.
So yeah, I thought that was
That's
pretty great.
awesome. Yeah.
And I did start yesterday.
That's
after
awesome.
much like delaying the whole closet. My closet was becoming a zone of absolute, it really reflected also what's been in my
Yeah.
system of transition. And if you see my house, the outer, the shell of it, meaning the common areas,
Mhm.
have this like tidiness to them. And yet my closet and this space, which is, my little magical spirit,
Yeah.
beauty, whatever office room, also I have a certain corner that like looks good. And then there's stuff in the corner over there. And I'm like, that is,
I know a thing or two about that.
oh, what a mirror. I'm looking at it over there. And I'm like, oh, great. Look at this. And
I'm
then look at
right over
that.
here.
So I come here and I not just for the camera, but I set it up for like, oh, I feel really good when I'm really cozy here. And then over there, I'm like, wait a minute. And the same with my closet. And I was like, all right, there's
Yeah.
definitely something there. So, but I'm glad I started. And then I took some clothes out, and then the clothing rod just completely like fell in on itself with the clothes I wanted. So that just sent me into another like, oh, okay, okay, we're
Wow.
doing this. We're really like cracking this open.
It was
It
like the
feels
weight of everything, not even the clothes, just all the weight
literally, it was like,
and held.
and it fell down in the most like elegant way. I was looking doing something else, and then it was just like, and I was like, oh,
Fine.
okay, okay. Uh, yeah.
And I
How do
like,
you, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'd like, because you mentioned earlier this piece about like, I believe you said unfinished projects or unfinished art.
Yeah.
And I think that too, that stuff can be haunting and can like poke at you of like, oh, see, you don't finish things or just another unfinished project laying around. And I'm really proud of myself because I've been doing things that for years I'm like, I couldn't do that. Is the last three paintings that I've done, they're actually paintings that I painted over. And I had two paintings that I had started in a program that I never finished. And these canvases are large and they're definitely not cheap. And I was just like, wow, what a waste that is just sitting there. And I'm never going to finish that particular one. And so I took some gesso and gessoed over it, kind of cleansed the energy, blessing what was there. You may go now. Thank you for your service. Bye bye. And then blessing this freshness. And it's been so beautiful of like releasing the old that's just hanging around, being like yucky reminders, and like
Yes.
bringing this new energy in. And it feels good in so many ways. It's like, it's okay to let go of stuff you started and you're just not going to finish. There's like no shame in that game. Like, let it go.
Hmm. I love that so much. That whole thing that you described in terms of the everything. And I was about to ask, like, oh, how does it feel to reclaim it? And you described it beautifully and perfectly. Sorry, something's going on with my phone where a YouTube video was just started playing out of nowhere.
Boom,
You
boom.
know. Mm, mm, mm.
If I hear something over there, party.
But I love that. I
Yeah,
mean, absolutely. So there are things that you will absolutely like reclaim and give a new life to.
yeah.
I've also found that in certain pieces of clothing that I'm like, oh, I never thought about like combining this and that and
Mhm.
making something a little bit more whimsical, dare I say, with the combo. And now I feel more courageous, even more
Mhm.
courageous to do stuff like that. So that's also been a really nice discovery
Nice.
of, ooh, what can I create with this? But not I gotta make this work. Like,
Right.
like that sort of grip on, no, like less of that. And I keep talking myself through it.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of melancholy attachments to things. I've noticed it's always been hard for me to declutter in general because I've worked through that over time. It gets easier around the emotional
Yeah.
things I'm tied to. And I've also noticed over the past few years with the grief of Jules going through ALS and all we've lost and the way our lives used to look like, there's something about decluttering that feels like erasing. I don't know about erasing the past, but kind of like
Yeah.
it adds another heavy. like layer of grief, because whether it's I'm looking at something that I wore once upon a time when we did this and it's like, oh, or I'm looking at his t-shirts that he wore that he doesn't wear anymore. Oh my gosh. So it also feels like I'm guessing the feeling of after, you lose somebody and you're going through the closet
This was
because
thinking
I've lost. Yeah, because
yeah,
I've lost, like, he's become something else and he's
exactly.
become this new human that I adore and I'm so um but yeah, so I noticed myself getting caught in that too, even with Skylar's clothes, like, oh, he wore this when he was this age and we went to this place, which was a factor before. I was always like, oh my God, how could I?
Yeah.
And now it just has that added layer of like, the life before and even the life during. And so I just wanted to speak into that because but that's part of the release and it's part of the letting go of the identity that's like locked into that moment in time and giving myself grace that there are certain pieces that I don't want to let go of.
Yeah.
There are certain pieces that I absolutely want to treasure that are the most sort of mundane things.
Hmm.
And I will keep them for now. And maybe that'll shift later on. And
Yeah.
but that also feels really important because the thing about decluttering is it can have so many voices of like literally the people that will sort of teach you and show you.
Yeah.
And you still have to find your own way through it.
Yeah. Because one person's thought around what you should keep, what you shouldn't keep may have absolutely nothing to do with how you feel about it. I
Hmm.
remember when Bradley died, he died in September and it was like winter time. So we were probably in December, January. And I remember I went through his dresser and I put together all of his winter stuff like jeans, flannels, socks, and I donated them to a shelter.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody going like, oh my God, that was too soon to do that. And I'm laughing because I was like, well, he's not going to wear them. Like, I want somebody who could use them to wear them. And knowing who my husband was as a person, he would want that too.
Yes.
He'd be disappointed if I was like hoarding it in the dresser when somebody in need could have used those clothes. So it's really like I think that's the thing too is like not getting caught up in what other people think your process should look like and really going what feels good to me because decluttering is also feels like there's an honoring that can go with it. And
Yes.
so it's like do I feel really good about that choice? Well, yes. I without a doubt I don't lose an iota of sleep at night that a few months after he died I donated his clothes to houseless folks.
My goodness. On the contrary, amazing.
Like I'm just like that was a no-brainer for me in that moment, you know? And it's but
Bravo.
there's things that I really felt attached to when within the first few years of his passing that I was like, oh, I can't get rid of this. I can't get rid of this. And I'm finding myself reaching this point where I'm like, it's okay.
Hmm.
Like I held on to it as long as I needed.
Yes.
And it's okay. And there's pieces that I'll never get rid of, like his vintage audio system. And I just passed it on to Heath, who's
Mm.
15 now. And I feel like he has this sense of responsibility. And, you know, he loved Bradley. That was his stepfather. And so it's this beautiful piece that I could now pass on to him. And I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
bro, you're in charge of this now. Like, this is your set. And,
Mm.
you know, he handles it with care. And so I feel actually really grateful to be in this position it's easier for me with certain things to be like, it's okay to pass this on. Like we get to keep this in the family, but like it's okay to pass on to Heath, or
Yeah.
it's okay to let this piece go or to sell it. Like he had so many vintage treasures and you know, it's okay. And I just
Yeah.
and it's yeah and so I'm just thinking about how there's so many variations and layers of the process. It's individual, it's unique to each of us, and And then it goes right back to who we are now in this moment, that identity piece of who am I right now, you know,
Yes.
is kind of freaking beautiful.
Yes, it is. That core of identity, my goodness, because and it doesn't have a certain specific cycle, like a season or a time of year or a decision to have to do this and that, which is also part of the honoring of your own
Mhm.
process. And then it gets me thinking that layer of, okay, well, if this is we're honoring our own process, our time, how do we then keep ourselves accountable and in movement around the process of decluttering so that we don't get stuck or caught up on things that then we're like, oh yeah, but this is because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll find that little escape hatch of um which is not our truth, right?
No,
It's not what we really want. It's just, and it may take some time to kind of like sit with that and find the way. But how do we keep ourselves in check with it? Like in integrity with, you know what I mean?
totally. And, I've spoken about this before in like some of my teachings of like, I've
Mhm.
really been working on my inner BS detector,
Mhm.
my inner BS detector. And
Yeah.
I'm really good with it. Like I know when I'm trying to fool myself. I
Exactly.
know when I'm
Yes. You put it perfectly. Am I fooling myself right now? Like,
Yeah,
is this my
I know.
own BS? And that's also part of identity. And it's such an intimate getting to know yourself.
Yeah,
I could cry. Like,
I know.
there's
It's
such
just good stuff.
intimacy
Mhm.
in that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know you're bullshitting yourself right now. So let's have a chat and see what's going on.
Like, okay, Queen, sit down.
Great.
Take a breath. Throw that shit out.
Yes. Uh, Same. It's something I've spoken into so many times, and it's just it's like a superpower.
Yeah.
Um, because there's a lot of love there, and there could be a lot of like that joy and that like it's like that little inner girl going like, yeah, I thought I could get away with it.
Yeah, and it's not me like wanting to berate myself or be mean to myself. It's like this part of me that's like, yo, you're gonna feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it's uncomfortable now in this moment. It's almost like my future self is like, future Sage is here, and she's just like, do that thing because you're gonna feel better when you just let go of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really try to walk myself through stuff. Like as I've been thinking about decluttering and we've had our conversations, I think about my garage that has stuff. So I moved in this house. June will be, holy crap, 4 years. Time is weird. I think four
Yeah.
years. Moved 2021. Do the math. 4 years in June. That's
How
weird.
I feel I've never been to your house. We've never even met in person. Wild. What? I feel like you've been in that house forever. And
I
I've only been like, we've been friends for like a handful of years since you moved into that house. I feel like you've been in that house forever.
Yeah. It's and so I think about I still, and I'm not embarrassed to admit this, I still have things
Hmm.
that I put in my garage that I've never touched.
Yeah, of
And so
course.
there's this like part of my brain that goes, girl, if you haven't laid eyes on that thing in 3.5 years, easy, like, why is it there? You're not going to miss it. Clearly, you haven't missed it in 3.5 years. So
Yes.
I'm just at this point where it's like, whatever's in there, I could really let go of. I'm not going to skip a beat in my life because I don't think it's healthy to be like, for me, I'm gonna speak for me. I don't think it's healthy for me to go, but I need it there. Like I need it there. I need to know it's there.
Hmm.
It's like, it's almost like a piece of codependency.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, it's interesting. So there's a lot of walking myself through these items that I'm considering, like, do I
Yes.
do I sell? Do I get rid of? Do I donate? Like, what am I doing with these pieces? And yeah, things that have been living in another area that I let it go. Let it go,
I
girl.
thought you were going to say in another era
Well,
also.
basically.
Also,
That too.
you bring in the codependency, and I'm like, oh, okay, goes right back to the identity
Oh my
because
God.
also
Woven.
the attaching our identity to stuff, which we covered,
Yeah.
but it goes deeper because am I being codependent
Mm.
on stuff? And then you're like,
Like, oh, that PS detector's like beep, 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 beep. Alert, alert.
I, I'm getting a mini hot flash because
Midlife magic.
midlife magic the is real.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, is this a part of my old self? It's like, oh, am I actually,
Yeah.
do I have a codependent relationship with this thing or this period or this
Yes. And I know that I do with certain things, right?
same?
Like I have no shame in admitting it out loud because I think being able to be honest with yourself is how you have an awesome bullshit detector. And again, I'm very clear that I'm not trying to make myself feel bad. I'm just being honest. If I can't be honest with myself, who can I be honest with? And so I know that there are certain things that it's like, oh, and awareness and acknowledgement, I feel like is the first step in this process. I
Hi,
don't
I'm
know how many
MA.
steps there are, but that's numero uno.
Tell me more about that awareness. I'm
Woo.
gonna say this needs to be captured. The honest with yourself, okay?
Yeah.
One of the tenets of Era of the Dreamers and the vibe is that we are that we want to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's a no-brainer.
that's it's beautiful. So many layers. It's going to be difficult and it's also going to be like the freedom,
Yeah.
which is what's on the other side of declutter.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about the tendency, and not that I've ever done this because I'm just asking for a friend, of moving, decluttering one space and just moving it to another,
Oh,
like in stages?
what?
I've never done this again. I've only seen it done on TV a couple of times. I have a friend that's like really, but I'd love to hear your
Well,
perspective.
I mean, unfortunately, I have no experience with that. Speaking of my husband, he used to say, there's like a mountain of things that follow you. Because if I was to go like from my office to the living room, I would have journals, books, papers, and then I would leave it like on the side table by a chair, and then I'd go do something else, and then he'd be like, then there the mountain goes. Like, and then it would turn into something that was on the kitchen table. So, oh, that just made me think of that. But it's so for me, when I think about I'm in this space, I'm decluttering, I'm getting rid of things, it always ends up with a final pile. Always, without a doubt. If I'm in my kitchen, if I'm in my office, there's a final pile of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if I get so energetically depleted from the process that I'm like, I surrender. It's just a nice pile now, but I think that there are moments where honest with myself, Sage will be like, follow through, keep going.
Mhm.
Like, and I notice that sometimes I'll get 90% of the way, and then I'm like, that's good. And then I ask
Mhm.
myself, like, well, there's this gap of actually finishing. And so is that part of that codependency kind of energy of like, but look, I did all of this, but then you left that little amount. So, because that's a pattern that a friend of mine has had. Not me.
Again, I can't.
I don't,
I wish I could relate.
yeah, I just unfortunately,
I wish I was that basic, Sage, to be able to relate to things like that.
I just
I am
unfortunately
far too evolved for that scenario. Uh, cut to my husband. So historically, I'm like the pile, right?
Mhm.
Of, oh, I decluttered the closet and then it ended up in another pile. And then I get the mojo again and it's like that shifts over to, and eventually it'll shift in a bag to the trunk of my car to head to donation.
Yeah.
And I've had things living in the trunk of my car, out of sight, out of mind. And he
Yeah.
would call me right away. He like called me out on it. He was like, "How long has this been in your car since you said you were going to
What? What?
Because the completion piece, and I'm going to bring back a gem that I began speaking into in the year 2018, 2019. This idea of being a woman of completion
Mm.
and the energy of I complete everything I start, which is that follow through piece.
Yeah.
And when I'm getting like, all right, follow through time, I find that it's actually, I've kind of gone a little bit like I've slipped back in that recently now that I'm really being honest with myself. Because, and then what is in that little space, that little gap that I like? "Oh," because yeah, this whole idea of I'm a woman of completion, like, okay, I will finish the book that I'm reading instead of having 6 books that I'm in the middle of, which I'll eventually finish, but you know what I mean? Same with the closet, same with like all these little things. I'm bringing that phrase back. I'm a person of completion.
So when I was listening to you
Mhm.
and I saw you do this and you said, what's in that little space? The first thing that I heard was control.
Mm.
You're still controlling it.
You know what I'm going to throw into the control. I heard grief,
Oh, yeah.
both. Hold on.
I'm like, I need a sip of two. Yep. Yep. That'll do
And
it.
I think it's okay to just sit with that for a moment.
Because that's the truth.
Mhm.
And I honestly, even if the truth is uncomfortable, which many times it is, uh, I'd rather know it than play pretend with myself because I want more for myself than that.
Beautifully said.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, that happened. Woo! I'm having one of those magical midlife moments.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the beauty of that statement, I want more for myself than that, could be taken 2 ways, but we're gonna pick the era of the dreamer way.
Yeah.
Pop quiz.
Pop quiz.
I want more for myself than that from the space of I haven't done the thing I want to do. I'm comparing myself. I have all these goals. I'm like, I need to work harder. That's option A.
Yeah.
Option B, I want more for myself than that from a inner, huh, hmm, like that question. Oh, I always leave that little bit, the last little bit. What's in there? And this is the whole like point of transformation, right?
Yeah.
Of transmuting your stuff because one is like continuously looking out there,
Yeah.
and the other one really goes in and goes, oh,
Yeah.
and I feel it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, that's the error of the dreamer way because we're opening space for that dream that like, okay, I am the dream isn't out there. And the dream has lots of different
Hmm.
expressions of,
Yeah.
so
This is all so amazing. So good.
yeah.
Wow, I feel like we just cracked a code or some shit.
Yeah.
The way.
Because control, okay, so control and grief.
Mhm.
Now we're trying to get to that, crack into the identity,
Yeah.
your authentic, raw, like, there's like this layer of grief, there's this layer of control. And in this conversation, they feel very intermingled, which makes sense because redefining grief is so important, not in the, grief like, I've lost control of something that I
Yeah.
thought I was supposed to have. Supposed to have,
Mm. Well,
supposed to
control
be, supposed to have
the way things were supposed to go.
another like identity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Because control for me has always equated to safety. Like if I can control this, then I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm secure.
Yeah. So what keeps you secure, that going back to that little gap that we like left off, the little tail of the thing that we may not have finished? What is the aspect of control in there that keeps you safe?
Well, I think it's an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's an illusion of safety.
But okay, so it's
Oh,
definitely an
okay.
illusion, but what is well,
I got you.
yeah.
Uh, from feeling bad, from feeling my feelings.
Oh, oh, because you let something go?
Yeah. Or or I've kept something that I don't want to let go because I don't want to acknowledge the feelings I have for that thing or the memories it brings up.
So it's better to keep it
Because I'm not acknowledging it really. I'm just
rather than letting
away
it
from her.
go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like the equivalent of sort of sweeping an emotion under the rug or feeling under the rug, where it's like unacknowledged?
Mm-hmm.
So then part of going back to the honoring of all the things that we're letting go of,
Mm-hmm.
and then the noticing of like of this little whatever physical pile or mental pile, what am I like thinking I'm holding on to control, which I think it equates safety for pretty much like all of us because it's such a base
Yeah.
feeling. And because we inherently don't feel safe in our own self.
Mm-hmm.
So we need things to keep us safe.
So then what is safety?
What is safety?
What is safety? Like then what actually helps us embody a sense of safety that's not that
Yeah.
illusionary kind of
Yeah.
safety?
And noting that safety in terms of resources, food, clothing, the basic necessities that a human being, like all of those things are in that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to bypass that part of safety, like noted.
No, for sure.
We are also sitting in a space of privilege where we can think about safety in this sense, right? Because we're not like in fight or flight in terms of our core safety. And for everybody who's sitting here, because that's taking so much energy away
Mm-hmm.
from actually acknowledging our inherent safety, um, in the sort of physical, practical sense, and then still not feeling safe, which is this part.
Which I think comes back to identity
Identity.
and how we see ourselves
Mm.
because we may not trust ourselves. And I don't feel safe with people I don't trust. So how would I feel safe with myself if I don't trust myself? It just keeps like spiraling back to the things, right? Because when I think of like, when do I feel safe? I feel safe when I have the financial security to pay my bills, feed my family. I feel safe when I am surrounded by people who I trust. I feel safe when I feel grounded and clear-minded. Like I'm thinking about all the layers that safety means for me in this moment. with all my privilege. Um, because trust is a huge factor to my safety when I think about it.
And all of that, like rewind the tape and let it sink in. Trust, that's part of, again, this sort of what we want to really bring forth during this particular era that we're entering, which we're coining, era of the dreamers, for the working through the idea of trusting myself, because the ultimate sense of safety comes from that space. And no matter what the external circumstances are, that all that you just described in terms of that trust in self, especially when we are navigating such crazy bumpy waters around us.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So going back to the decluttering as a radical act of reclaiming my identity and my trust in myself,
Wow.
I'm taking back my power.
Fuck yeah.
Like,
It's a claiming. It's
we are
this,
taking back our power,
yeah.
because nothing should be controlling or siphoning away your energy in that way.
Mm-mm. No. Why do I feel like crying right now?
Because
Fine.
I'm fine, everything's fine.
No, it's really beautiful. Like really, I'm here for these conversations, but it's just my favorite part is that I could visually see the thread, like as we go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
100%.
Like we get to that little innard of trust in ourselves, and then it's like sweeping it back to the decluttering. And it's like, here we go again. It's
Yeah.
beautiful weave that it's all tied together. And I think this is the magic of having these conversations and doing this type of work, because we're not in that pretend of like, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why these things are happening. I don't know why this feels so challenging. You're actually like, let's put on our creative detective, creative scientist hat, and let's, because I would say, oh, this. And you're like, well, what does safety feel like? It's like we keep cracking and
Mhm.
cracking and cracking, and it's this sense of relief of the knowing. The knowing makes me feel safer.
Yeah.
Knowing the truth.
I was going to say this, the truth,
Yeah.
that honesty with
Yep.
ourselves, the most intimate relationship we can cultivate. And to your spectacular, like, point about, if like the trust around, so if I don't even trust myself, the intimacy with myself, which I do think you and I have begun to swim in that space of really developing a whole new sense of intimacy with ourselves, which is what then allows us to play in this different space,
Exactly.
and that we're still, like, you know uh cultivating and just scratching the surface of. But that idea of honesty with yourself will begin to open up these spaces that are uncomfortable, that will bring you more freedom and intimacy with who you are and what you want, where you are in this moment in your life, not back there or in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then that recalibration is like the core of, like, think about it, boundaries, creativity, how you use your voice in the world, how you walk, how you carry yourself.
Everything. It touches absolutely everything. Phew. That was a ride.
If we were to come up with 2 to 3 journal prompts to sprinkle out for whoever might want to continue to to play in this detective scientist, my life is a laboratory space. Definitely the whole I, I wrote like identity really big in the middle. It's a big one.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
But however, you can begin to like, oh, what is my identity right now? And right away the things will pop off like, well, mom, wife, caregiver,
Yeah.
and I can absolutely go deeper in other ways that I totally acknowledge now that I love. But it's good to have that like, okay, like a first pass of who am I right now, today, in this form.
Thinking.
I love how we're like in the floaty space.
We are. We're definitely in the era of the dreamer space.
We're definitely
I think there gets to be some kind of journal prompt around how do you feel about decluttering?
Mhm.
Like really just go ahead and acknowledge, how do I feel when I'm in decluttering or thinking about decluttering?
And what's really beautiful is for those that are going to take that on is you've just heard all the ways we've like explored the multiple essences and layers of decluttering. So you can hopefully now like go a layer deeper
Yes.
and like
Yeah. Yeah. It's like let the fluff come out and then be like, and then what? Like, and then what else?
exactly.
There's another layer that's containing more of the juice.
Mm-hmm. I'm also gonna I'm gonna touch on something.
Okay.
I feel like it's here. That sense that, but I told you one of our conversations that part of this process is a big part of it is because right now in this moment in time, I'm literally talking about like February 2025, we are being invited to give up something that feels big.
Mhm.
So I'm going to put that out there also because part of this taking it a little bit further conversation is okay, great, decluttering. All right. And just to be conscious of that part of what we are living through and energetically kind of being squeezed through and drawn like that idea of, oh, I'm being given the opportunity. You don't have to. You've been given the opportunity, the invitation. And if you're listening, you're probably feeling it to give up something big. So it comes up for you there. I'd love to hear.
Well, I'm uncomfortable, so I prefer to avoid it. No.
First of
Well,
all, yeah.
my friend said,
And also, I just tossed it right to you. I didn't even answer my own question. I was like, oh, so give up something big and go.
avoid this and toss it to
Yeah,
you.
it was just,
Well, two things come up. Two of the big things in terms of like what I get to rid. Now I'm thinking of like actual things
yeah.
in the decluttering process. A would be the clothes that I no longer wear because I can't fit into them. And honoring my body now, and that I have an amazing, able body in this moment, and it's okay. And I get to let that go. Letting it go isn't a failure. I think it feels like a failure to like say, oh, I can't fit into these anymore. Because I also don't want to be the person that's like, but I might one day, because then I'm not living presently. Right.
Mhm.
So letting go of the clothes that I can no longer wear. Oh, and I think the really big one, because I feel it right here, is my husband's part of his record collection.
Wow.
Yeah, that he tended his record collection like a gardener would like tend and cultivate their homestead. And I have taken the things that make me think of him that I want but he had like a huge, massive taste of music. And there's just things I'm just never going to listen to. And they've been living in boxes safely
Mm.
since his passing in 2018. And I can feel the space they're taking up. And I don't even mean the physical space, right?
Mm.
So there's like 2 or 3 boxes that I'm like, they really need to go.
Yeah.
And that feels really hard and big.
Yeah.
And I know full body, they got to go. And yet, I mean, they're right there.
Literally right there.
They're literally like right there. And so
Wow.
it's this with me every day, next to me every day. They're like in the closet, in my office. That, and as I'm in this conversation, I'm also thinking like, yeah, I should call that record store, bring in those records. Like, it feels like so freaking big. Like I'm trying to move a cement building by myself. It feels so big.
Yeah.
And it's time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I think the more that I actually speak it, it takes
Mhm.
off some of the pressure and it dims the energy down where it starts to feel doable, you know?
And I'm here for you, whatever that looks like.
I might be crying on the way to the record store and call you and
Mhm. Yeah.
so hey, I'm doing that really big scary thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. What
That
about
gives
you?
that no, I was just gonna acknowledge like the courage that gives permission. Because I can just imagine other hearts kind of like going like a little light bulb, like ding. Oh, yes. I hadn't had this in mind until you started speaking into it. I have mm, quite a bit of Skylar's old things, blankets. I've told myself that I've done a fairly good job of getting rid of certain things. And it's interesting because things that somebody else could benefit from, I'm like, oh, and yet there's a lot of things that I'm like, well, this is either a toss away and now they've been there. My son is 8. There's a box of blankets that I just stumbled upon a couple days ago. And my thought is, oh, maybe I can make something with them. But if I'm being honest, I'm like, is that really going to happen?
Yeah.
And again, there's so much wrapped up, and it's not just like the memory of a child. It's so interconnected with life-changing moments and um processing so much. And I'm thinking also, it's a gift for my energetically for my son to be free
Yeah.
because I've always wanted to really honor the fact that I'm was blessed and lucky enough to be the vessel for him to make his arrival on this earth. And I've always held that so close to my heart. And then there's things like that it's like, you know, that's not him anymore.
Mm.
Oh, that's the deeper one. I'm sure there's others. There's also some things like I mentioned earlier about my husband's clothing and things like that I'm like, and the clothes, yeah, I want to go a little bit deeper too, because the clothes for sure, the closet stuff, but I want to say maybe things from my old when I used to work in corporate work identity. I
Oh.
still have some like awards, like these really beautiful awards for like promote like marketing and promo and creative things. They're in the closet. And what do you do with those?
Yeah.
I mean, there's those. There's yeah, some other like things that I've kept that it feels talk about eras ago and ages ago. It feels like a whole freaking several lifetimes ago.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
So there's something about that too, which I think is feeling easier to release.
Mhm.
Um, but that whole version of me, that identity, right? Like she's absolutely like love her, adore her. And
Yeah.
not her anymore.
Yeah.
I can feel the energy from those records. They're smiling though.
You know, yes. And it's, I know the things that I've let go of his, the people who they ended up with were so ecstatic. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I've been looking for this for the past 10 years, or oh, I've been searching for this. And it's like knowing that they're going to people who are gonna like love and use it and honor it seems so much more special than it sitting in a closet.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like I want it to continue to have life, and it's not going to continue to have life with me. So it's like, who can I pass it on to that is going to really treasure it and love it? Because that's more meaningful to me than me, just like, I've got all the things. You know what I mean? It's just like,
It
yeah,
keeps feeling like a museum. Like when you first started talking about it, I was like, that's like a museum. It
yeah,
feels like a museum exhibit.
yeah. I mean, really, like, oh, there's this audio equipment and this and that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
you know, and then I think it mixes with my own identity
Yeah.
of like, then I get kind of blurred. And I think moving into this house was being like, this is my house. Like I could put whatever I want on the wall. I could make it look the way that I want to make my house be a reflection of me. And I want
Yeah.
to lean more and more into that, you know, like this is my house.
Yeah.
I want it to represent me. Somebody walks in here and they're like, oh, of course this is Sage's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course it's I know who lives here.
Do
You
you
know?
feel like you were somehow made like like a steward, like a protector of those records, and there's some sort of like maybe guilt around because you've mentioned a few times how he took such good care of them,
Yeah.
and you feel almost like you had to like follow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like having him pass so unexpectedly with no plan, no will, no like this is what I want to
Yeah.
do with my things, you then become the steward of all of someone else's life stuff.
Yeah.
I just am like it, and it's hard because you don't necessarily know what to do with some of the things, but you know what was special. And so now, and I think it clouded what was actually special to me versus what was special to him.
Wow. Yeah.
And I felt like I had to take on what was special for him. And so I spent years being like, well, I have to hold this because he held it. And now
Yeah.
I'm going, no, like I've got records that are special to me. I've got paintings on the wall that are special to me and him that were from him,
Hmm.
right? So it's okay to let go of the other things. So
Wow.
it is interesting. It's like, I think one of the biggest lessons I took away was I don't want anyone to feel the way I did when he died, of somebody coming in and going, oh my God, what do I do with all her shit? Like, what do
Wow.
this? Like that, like having the decluttering experience feels so good for me. And it feels like I'm setting my kids up for success in the long run of like, they won't have to go through the boxes sitting in the garage. You know what?
Yes.
Like, what if
Yes.
it just, it's like, I don't want to put that on them because, you know, I, of course, it's no energy on my husband. But it's just, it was a lesson that came
Hmm.
out of that, of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this to my loved ones because it's really heavy having
Hmm.
to then be the decider of things. And you're just like, what is actually happening? And oh yeah, I'm really in my feels. Oh, while being that person.
Yeah. Mm. Amazing. And back to the it's your own process,
Yeah,
2018,
yeah,
unexpected passing. And here we're in 2025 having this incredible conversation.
exactly.
So whenever that moment is, it's just gonna flux and change. And now you've like made the decision and sort of the astral plane, like click. And then you now get to click into the follow through of it, which will bring its own set of more obstacles along the way.
For
The
sure.
physical actually like moving the pieces out and what that'll mean and everything that will keep coming up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some little things.
So, just basics, just your basics of decluttering.
I
My friend, do we feel complete?
feel complete. I feel
Mhm.
like this was amazing.
Yeah,
Like I feel so,
same.
I do feel a little weepy, but it's such a good weepy. It's a like I'm in my feels in the most beautiful way. This responsibility of like feeling my feels and being okay with it and knowing the knowings that I get to do next and knowing that I'm not alone doing them. It's just like this beautiful of like I feel like I just got a big old hug. And also I feel like I released some stuff too.
Yeah.
I feel both and here.
I do. I feel it's interesting because even as the conversation has progressed, it's sort of moved up. The it's sort of like no, it's like here. And it's a little less. And
Yeah.
it's feels, and I agree. It feels very tender. It feels really like I feel proud of us. I feel like, wow, wow. And we've had so many times when we've felt this way. Um, it's extra beautiful now to do it in an extra vulnerable way where we're like chronicling it.
This era of the dreamers, y'all.
This is Era of the Dreamers.
Yeah.
We're living the dream.
We are the dream.
We are the dream. All right. Well, thanks for watching and listening. And
Yeah.
any parting words?
Now, give yourself grace as you feel the feelings. And what a gift it is to feel the feelings, even when it may not seem like that.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. Beautiful.
Okay.
See you next time.
Without.
Bye.